Welcome to this edition of the Speak the Truth in Love Ministry with Miss Veronica Mirembe Benedictio. And in this edition, I want to share about anger, like the spirit of anger in regard to mental illness. I'm going to share through my life experience or testimony kubanga ndi wano okuyamba abantu abasiibe butabika abantu ababeera ku ddagala ly'ebutabika kubanga oluusi okumanya amazima gatufuula ab'eddembe oba oluusi abantu abasinga abalina obukosefu ku bwongo they battle anger issues babeera n'obusungu batamanyi controllinga kye baba bakusibya mu ddwaliro n'obeera ng'omira eddagala ate nga tomanyi tewali mpeke egenda kuggyako busungu nga toyize kwefuga. I have created this video to talk about anger management in regard to people who go to Butabika Hospital. Butabika is a referral hospital here in Uganda where people who battle mental illnesses go for psychiatric help. Or I want to speak to people who battle mental illnesses because you realize most of us who have been through this journey have a very common characteristic, which is anger issues we hardly know how to control. Abantu abasinga be bawadde lebbe eyo nti batabuka emitwe bazonto bagwa eddalu mu biseera ebisinga babeera n'ekintu ekiri common ekiyitibwa obusungu abantu batamanyi kufuga nga bwe bukusibya mu ddwaliro bwe bukusibya ku ddagala until we hardly know that no medicine is going to take away anger. Tewali ddagala ligenda kuggyako busungu nga toyize nti olina okwefuga nga you have not learned certain tactics of knowing how to control anger. Kuba nina ekintu kye ngamba abantu oluusi tubeera mu society tubeera ku mirimu tubeera mu mafamily abantu nga balwana n'okulwana naye gwe lwakuba ensi yakuwa lebo weekulaba ng'oli munyiivu ne bakuzza mu ddwaliro okyakyenkulaga kati ndi wano okusomesa abantu mu buvidiyo buno kati kano nkakoze ka mental health okuyamba people who battle anger issues. Because it is not only the mentally challenged who battle anger issues, ne abantu bonna babeera n'ebizibu bino nga babeerako obusungu ne balwana n'owulira yalwanidde wano bamukubidde wano lwakuba kati bano babawa lebo nti bipolar oba butabika keesi yabeerako n'ekyo ekipande ekyova olaba nga tetumanyi nti busungu bwe businga okufuga abantu. I am here to help people through life experience because so many people are on prolonged medication. Abantu bamira eddagala ne bakuba empiso n'obeera ku ddagala myaka na myaka ne bakuzanga ebutabika mu ddwaliro lwakuba totegedde mazima gano gali mu kintu kiyitibwa busungu. No one, we have to know whenever you have that tag of bipolar oba otabuka omutwe abakuyita zonto oba zubi or mental illness, at times most of us have a common characteristic, which is anger issues people hardly know how to control. And when we know certain truths, it is how we are going to overcome handling such things. When you read the Bible in 2 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 11, the Bible tells us, be aware of the enemy's schemes. Be aware of the devil's schemes. Bible tugamba nti tumanyenga obutego bw'omulabe sitaani. Kubanga abantu abasinga abayita mu kintu kino ekyobukosefu bw'omutwe oba tomanyi nti people just provoke you into anger. People are very good in societies, in the workplaces, in the family, in marriages, in provoking people into anger. And they provoke you into anger, you begin fighting, and they give you a label, nga oli omutabufu bw'omutwe. Kyenva ndi wano okuyamba abantu. The Bible says, oyina okumanya obutego bwa sitaani. Bible etugamba mu 2 Corinthians abakolinsi ekyokubiri olunyiro lwokubiri essula eyokubiri olunyiro lw'ekumi n'olumu nti tulina okumanya obutego bwa sitaani aleme tuwangula. Because at times people are on prolonged medications n'olwana bakuzizayo mu ddwaliro omulimu gufudde waranye you have lost things and we hardly know that when we get to learn certain truths about mental illness and anger issues, they can make us better people. We have to know when you have been given that tag, ngoine ekipande ekyo nti otabuka omutwe. sitaani akozesa abantu okusunguwa like okuleetera obusungu buli ssaawa. Ayimusa abantu kyobalaba nabagambye oba nayogedde mu vidiyo yange eyasoose ku makya nti Bible tugamba mu Befeso 6:12 tetulwana n'abantu, tetulwana na musaayi na mubiri. Our battle is not against flesh and blood, but principalities, demons, authorities that rule in the heavenly world. Tuyina okumanya nti abantu si bw'oba olwana nabo naye emyoyo gyambala abantu. Sitaani akozesa abantu to deliberately keep you low, to deliberately keep you into anger nga you don't know. And it is why I'm here to enlighten people who battle mental illness. No, let me give you an example. I can wake up at night to record a video. Mbwene sitani kwa kubogola. Kwa ye sitani amanyimbo ezinabogera mu video, ogenda kusunguwala, ziveko, ochankalane, ebintu obiri. It is why I'm telling us, Bible gamba, be aware of the devil's schemes. Nyinza okuba recording a message ngeno, omwana omuto n'atandika okukaaba, ate ng'omwana aba akaaba bukaabi. Oba ine ekimuluma. Kati it's why I'm showing us we have to be aware of the devil's schemes. Kwa Bible gamba tetulwana na musaayi na mubiri. Nera tulina okulekeraawo okunyigiranga abantu, okulwanyisa abantu kubanga ne sitaani ayita mu bantu. Sitaani tayambala miti, sitaani tayambala mayinja naye ayambala bantu. It is why you live in a marriage, and when your husband tells you mire dagalayo, when your wife tells you mire ojakuvako, because the devil uses the people we love the most to keep us low, to hurt us more. Sitaani akozesa abantu betusinga okwagala betukkiririzaamu kubanga amanyi omuntu gw'osinga okwagala waba akikoze kigenda kukubawala. And it is why we have to know the Bible says we do not fight against flesh and blood. It is why I'm telling people who battle mental health disorders, when we get to know certain truths, the Bible says in Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 9, it says, do not be quickly angered in your spirit, because anger rests in the bosoms of fools. Anger rests in the laps of fools. Waliwo n'olumu yangamba nga mukansolinga ne Madam Veronica, ompise fulu, sinza kuyita fulu, Bible yekuyita omusirusiru. Bible yegamba nti buli wobeera nga onyiganyiga mangu obeera musirusiru. The Bible says do not be quick to anger, because anger rests in the bosoms of fools. Bible gamba nti tonyiganyiganga mangu kubanga obusungu bubeera mu mitima gy'abasirusiru. And it is the same Bible that says in Proverbs 20 verse 3, it is a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to anger. Sinza achogera, sinza kuita fool, Bible yekuita fool. The Bible says it is a man's honor to avoid strife, to avoid anger, but every fool is quick to anger. Buli wobeera nga zivaako, nedda kyenva ngamba abantu, buli we wayita omulokole naye nga zivaako, obulokole buquestioning. Because at the end of the day, omuntu woba ovaavaako, kyova olaba tolina mirembe mu nsi, and we have to know bino bibeera buli wamu. Newoonaddukawa sitaani ajja kugolokoseza abakunyiiza. Kati nga what you have to know is to learn how to handle anger. It is to learn how to know certain truth about anger. It is to learn that most anger is not personal. It is to learn that at times it is better to keep quiet. It is better to be the fool than proving a point. It is why I'm teaching us about anger. No, very many people are battling mental illnesses. Bamize dagala, baba kube empiso, naye tewali dagala likujjako busungu nga tomanyi mazima nti oluusi gwalina okwefuga. Gwe waaki olowooza ataliko kipande yeewalwala tebajja mutwala butabika. Negwaika ekipande ekya Bipolar eky'obulalu wolwana bakuyingiza eddwaliro kubanga tomanyi nti ne sitaani akozesa abantu kujjako waya. And it is why you have to be very intentional at guarding your heart. The Bible says in Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it spring the issues of life. You have to be very intentional at guarding your peace. No sitaani amanyi ajja kozesa obwana obuto bukuyita omulalu ajja kozesa abantu bakuyita omulalu kubanga amanyi ojja kuvaako olwane abantu batandike wabakubye kyokka nga tolina kyobakoze bakuteeke mu ddwaliro. No, when we get to know what bipolar is, these are foundations that work through anger, that work through unforgiveness, that work through demonic altars, where people are putting people on altars to keep you in anger. You know, and it is why I'm telling someone, when you get to know what bipolar is, these are foundations. Bintu bibera mu family mirandira kati nga wotayiga kwefuga kankubulire ojja kumira eddagala ojja kusiba mu ddwaliro kubanga totegedde kintu kiri mu kintu kino kye bayita bulalu. You know, why do we think most people they call bipolar, they are very easily angered? No, I'm speaking these things to myself because things like marriage are not for the easily angered. You know, and it is why myself, Veronica, at 38 years, I'm in a season where I'm not praying God, I'm not very desperate about marriage. Naye mukama musaba, akole kumbala yange. Mbale ebibala nga sinnagenda mbufumbo kubanga newe nabugenda nga siize kufuga busungu nja kuvayo mu myezi 2 newe nabugenda nga siize bugumiikiriza nja kuvayo mu myezi 2. And it is the reason we have to know our first prayer should not be marriage, but our first prayer should be to grow in the fruit of the Spirit. Kubala bibala. You know, because most people who have that label, most people who have that tag, abantu abasinga bayina ekipande ekyo ekibatawanya busungu. Ate nga obusungu buvaawa mu butasonyiwa. Nedda kankubulire, there are things we take for granted, but why do we think these are patterns with all people who have this tag? Abantu bonna bayina waki bayina zino pattern nga zezimu? Ono yaranye nono yamugambye gendo omire eddagala lyo. Kankubulire, do not know the Bible says whoever is quick to anger is a fool. And it's the Bible that says in Ephesians chapter 4, I think it's verse 26 to 27. It says, in your anger do not sin, and do not let the sun go down when you're still angry. Inti mu busungu bo, like Bible yetugamba nti mu busungu bo toyonoona, tokkirizanga njuba genda wansi nga tosonyiye. Nedda bino byembuulira abafumbo. Tokkiriza genda nga kwebaka ng'olina obusungu ku mwami wo ku mukyala wo. Bino byonna tuli mu bbiiga kubanga tubeerako mu bantu abafumbo abamanyi Katonda. You know, because whatever this does, no, I can really relate to when I read these scriptures. Nzijukira emyaka gyedda, omuntu bwe yanyiizanga nga seeba kakiro nga n'otwotubula. Naye nagenda okulaba emyaka gye nzize entambula n'obulwadde buno nga mmira eddagala nga ndi ku mpiso n'ekitegeera. Kati omuntu omulala owa bulijjo bayinza omunyiiza yajja kwebaka. Naye gwe bakunyiiza ogaana okwebaka ate bitandika bwe bityo otwo ne tubula ne batandika n'otandika okukola ebitaliiyo. You get uncontrolled, but it all came from anger issues you did not control. You know, and it is why I'm speaking to someone in this video who battles mental illness. Forgiveness will save you hospital bills. Forgiveness, and let me tell you, because whatever mental illness is, people do not know. It is anger issues people do not know how to control. You know, it is why me, Veronica, I was given a diagnosis of bipolar at 14 years, but most of the psychiatrists I visited, abasinga bangamba, your temperament, oba embeera zo, oba character yo, teriiko muntu si abantu bayita bipolar. Kubanga abantu bayita ba bipolar, babeera n'obusungu bungi, bwe batamanyi kufuga. You know, and it is why I'm telling someone, tokkirizanga kipande kuwa identity. Kwa n'omusawo olumu yakingamba, they can give you a tag, a label, ekipande, naye nga n'omusawo akoze ensobi okyakyengulaga. And it is why I'm telling someone in this video, learn how to control. The Bible says whoever is quick to anger is a fool. Buli wobeera nga zivaako Bible ekuyita musirusiru. You know, kubanga mulimu ebintu nga womanya emitego gy'omulabe sitaani ogenda kulekerawo okulwana n'abantu. Sitaani amanya ajja kupangira abantu bakugambe genda omire eddagala yo bakole kino, because his mission is to keep you in hospital. He will raise people to deliberately keep you in anger. And it is the reason you have to be very intentional in keeping your peace. You have to be very intentional in guarding your heart. Kuba stand akosa miti akosa mayinja akozesa abantu. Because their mission is to get you into anger. No, there is something I share in my videos. I stay in Matuga, No, I'm telling you, this place will become very known. Because I have a whole book I'm writing about this community. I stay in a place, we are in a residential place, but we stay on the roadside. And you will go and pick rubbish every day. But people are very intentional at throwing rubbish. Kubanga oli amanyi wa kusuulira ebisaaniiko ogenda kunyiiga olwane bakuyita omulalu. Ayagala kutuukiriza kiri ensi kye yakuwa nti oli mulalu. Naye kati ngaffe abategedde amazima. There are certain truths we know about what bipolar is. Kubanga the mission of the world is to show people nga wolwana bakutwale mu ddwaliro. But because you know the devil's schemes, no, there is something I tell people. People are very intentional at making us angry. And when you do not know that, it is why you will be angry with everyone. Nina ekintu kye ngamba abantu nze kye neeyigirizanga Veronica. The way I have handled anger. Abantu abakunyiiza abali very intentional at making you angry. Kankubuulire yigo basabiranga essaala ennungi. Ate yigo bajjanga ku mutima. Kubanga si bo naye sitaani yabakozesa. But there is something I tell people, buli omu alina amusobola. Buli omu alina amusobola. Ayinza okubakolerako effujjo nga tolina ky'osobola mukola. Kuba ye ayagala kutuukiriza kiri kipande kye baakuwa olwane. Naye musabire Katonda amugolokosezeeyo amusobola. Kuba buli omu abeera n'amusobola. There is something I tell people, I have been a nursery teacher, I have been a kids teacher for very many years. Ogenda nolaba abaana nga balwana omwana n'alwana a kid fights n'akuba munne muzadde we n'ajja ne bamugamba nera omwana wange ewaki bamutawaanya naye waafunayo amutimpula waafunayo amusobola omuzadde taddamu kujja kuyomba kuba naye yafunye asobola omwana we. Kati there are certain things I usually speak to myself. Munsi muno buli omu alina amusobola. Goyinza okuba tomusobola. Naye musabire Katonda amugolokosezeeyo amusobola. They'll put them in order. Because people are very intentional at making us chop wires. And it is the reason you should genuinely pray for them and pray for God to raise someone who will handle them and put them in order. Because when we get to know certain truths, kankubuulire Bible weekolaga ntorana na musayina mubiri. It is why myself, whenever I am provoked, I get into laughter. Because I get to know when you laugh, sitani oba mumaze amaanyi. Because and it is what God taught me. Because these powers fight to keep you low, and when they see you laughing, they have no foothold on you. It is the Bible that says, Ephesians 4:26 up to 27. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down when you are angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. No, I'm telling you, sitani abakunoonyako kakwate. Abakunoonyako kyeyekwasa. Chovola, whenever you get into bitterness, abakuwangula. Wotandika okusunguwala abakuwangula. And it is why I'm speaking to people who battle mental illnesses. People who rise up against kankubulire abantu mubalekere Katonda. Kubanga noyo akutawaanya takuyinaako buyinza Katonda ye yakuwa obulamu. Ochaba, kati yewe abali intentional in making you angry. Gwe musabire Katonda amugolokosezeeyo naye anakimukolanga. Because when we get to know certain battles are fought in love. No, there are things I have taught myself. Choose your battles wisely. At times proving a point, you are proving a point at the cost of your inner peace. At times proving a point is not worth it when you're going to lose your marriage. At times proving a point is not worth it when you are going to be in prison. Those are things I tell Omutunolwana bajja kusiba wakoze. No, there are things I tell people. One moment of restraint can save you a lifetime of regret. Akadachika kamako kewefuga kasobola okusavinga obulamu bwo. Kubanga at times wacha abantu babeera eruzira yalwana yasala omuntu akambe yakola ki ng'obusungu bwe bukuleetedde ebintu gwatomanyi kwefuga. kati mulimu amazima ge tulina okumanya tukeera kumakya tuba mukama tujjeemu obusungu tuyigiriza obugumiikiriza katonda n'akugolokoseza abantu n'akugolokesa area nga bakuggyako busungu naye nga gwasaba mukama okuggyako obusungu. I think we see how God answers prayers. You know, because God knows as long as you are in that community, He's teaching you how to handle anger. It is why I tell people, allow people provoke you. Because they are teaching you something. Sitani amukozesa nene katonda aina kyakuyigiriza. So look at the good thing out of it. Do not look at this person. Kubanga ajja kufuna yamusobola. Omwana oyo alwana ku ssomero ne bayita muzadde we najja n'agamba abasomesa ne nanze omwana wange lwaki bamutawaanyako abakube waafuna amukuba n'amugjamu erinnyo omuzadde najja ku ssomero tumugamba bulungi gwatayigiriza mwana wo mpisa kubanga afunye amusobola. You know, and it is why I tell people va ku bantu. Our common enemy is the devil. It is not people, because the Bible says we do not fight against flesh and blood. When you get to know that people are very intentional at keeping you low, no, I'm telling you, appreciate your paper. Because you are in a paper, you are in an exam. Yegwasaba mukama nyambula obusungu kati mukama n'aleta abantu okusunguwaza kati okola otya kya. No, there are things we have to know. Woba oli mulokole ng'okyavaako waya kukola questioning obulokolebo. You know, because there are certain truths we have to know about anger. You know, how do you handle people? There are times, I'm telling you, when learn how to choose your battles wisely. At times, maintaining your dignity, protecting your dignity is better than proving a point. No, we have to know, not every anger, not every insult, not every provocation deserves your time. You know, because there are certain battles that are fought in love. When we get to know the true weapons of fighting anger, you know, because we live in a world that is very intentional at keeping us low. We live in a world that people are always angering us. You know, kyenva ngamba abantu buli omu omuleka kubanga ayina yamusobola. Goyinza okuba byakola tomusobola naye saba mukama amugolokoseza ya kubanga abeera yamusobola. You know, stop. No, it's what I'm telling people. Forgiveness will save you hospital bills. Because whatever takes people to butabika yalwanye kyekireta okulwana ono yangambye genda omire eddagalayo ono yangambye kino ono yanvumye kino. Because, and let me tell you, whenever you get to know what anger is, why people anger us, at times we also have a problem. Because personally I talk to myself, why did I always feel angered when people hold me a butabika case? And it is true, maybe I was going through something and I was a butabika case. Naye kati I'm a very proud butabika kwa ne watching ngamba mukama yamponya tekininaako maanyi. No, let me tell people, omuntu wajjana akuvuma nti oli mubi ng'oli mulungi osobola okunyiiga tosobola. Kubanga omanyi oli mulungi. Omuntu wajjana akugamba nti oli munaku ng'oli mugagga osobola okunyiiga. Kubanga oli mugagga. You know, and this is why we have to know at times anger has to do with us. You know, at times we have wounds in us we have not dealt with, and it is why people provoke and anger us. You know, it is, we have wounds we have to deal with, and it is why we are triggered by anger. Now, let me give you an example. If I came and I abused you in French, nezija nekuvuma mu Olufalansa olutegeera, naye wenzija nekuvuma mu Luganda obitegeera bikwatako, kyovola bikunyiiza. And that is what anger is about. It is about things we have not dealt with. And it is why I tell people, it is why I tell myself, chovola abantu abasinga ebigambo by'abantu wachi bitumenyo babitumalamu amaanyi. Nawe oluuso ine akakwate ku bigambo ebyo. You know, kubanga omuntu bw'ayogera ekintu ne kikumenya, oluusi naawe weekebere nyinza okuba, because the truth hurts. Amazima galuma. Kati ekintu bwewe kikuluma ne kikumalamu amaanyi mu biseera ebisinga weekebere naawe oyinza okuba oli mu nsobi kubanga ekintu ekitalinaako mazima tetanakumalamu maanyi. No, there are certain things I have learned about anger. Kati nze bampitanga omulalu byanyinzanga byamalamu amaanyi kuba nali mu season I used to get uncontrolled. Naye kati osobola okumpita omulalu ne kimalamu tekisobola. because there are truths I have learned about anger. Neda chiringo okugamba omuntu weebaka ne musajja wa munne omuntu oyo waba takikola wakiba kimunyiiza naye kimunyiiza kuba kiba kituufu. It is why I'm telling you anger in most cases has something to do with us. Kuba omuntu waba tekisaana kunyiiza. No, let me give examples. Myself, I live in a home area Matugga. Omuntu ajja kujjayogera ekiboozi omuwala oyo agwedde n'atambula okuva e Makerere nga yeeyambudde. Tekisobola kunyiiza baasi kikola. Okiraba omuntu n'ayogera omanyi omuwala oyo kitaawe yamuwonga, her parents sacrificed her. Kati there are things that can't anger me because they are not truth. And so they say that truth hurts. Omuntu w'anaayogera ekintu nga kituufu kijja kuluma. Someone will make we live in a world where people are very practical in angering us. People have said things about us. You hear a story, omuwala oyo yeebaka ne kitaawe. It cannot affect you because you know that truth. You know that truth and it cannot affect you. Naye singa oba okikola kikumalamu amaanyi. It is why I'm telling people, when we get to know truths about anger, oluusi wache bitukosa ku mutima, now you have something to do with it. It's why we say anger in most cases has something to do with us. It is why I live in a world where I have been laughing with so many people, but they are spoiling your reputation behind your back. Nebakogerera ebintu simanya webaka ne kitaawo. A lot happens. But those things don't provoke me because I know who I am. I'm true to myself. And that's why I tell people, when you are true to yourself, I'm telling you, anger cannot have control over you. People will speak things. No, I have heard things. Oyo mwana aranso mfumbo bwa mama we tebisobola kumalamu manyi because I'm true to myself. There are things that will only provoke you when you are also doing something wrong. It is why we have to know anger has something to do with us. Because there are things I went through in school. Makerere College, Old Kampala. Oyo mwana ayocha nyumba ye waabwe agwedde tebisobola kunyiiza kwa sibikolangako. Naye ekintu kyokoze kijja kunyiiza. Because the Bible batugamba the truth hurts amazima galuma. Chovola omuntu buli wayogera ekintu nga kirimu amazima kikuluma naye naawe obeera olina okwekebera. Because the reason why we anger, at times we also have things we have to deal with. And why we have to know anger is about us. No one has the power to anger you when you have not given them. Tewali alina buyinza kujjako wayanga tobumuwadde nera watuukira okukikujjako gwaba muwadde amaanyi. It is why we have to know certain truths. No, there are things I tell people. Why do you think people at times are driving in traffic? A cyclist comes and owaboda najja nakola ekintu ekiri very wrong. Novaayo gwe omusajja omukulu nova mmotoka oyagala kukolana na musajja wa boda. Kati ababoda bavaayo ne bakuba kuba atomanyi kwefuga. Naye omulala ajja kimukola amutunuulire kuba amanyi wa boda talina na budde we. No, there are certain things we have to know. You have to know there are certain popcorn mindsets that should not steal your peace. There are certain mindsets you do not have to allow to steal your peace. No, I'm telling you, certain mindsets. There are groups of people, just like I tell myself, the society I live in Matugga. These are people with popcorn mindsets. Omuntu alowooza nti buli alwala omutwe bamuwonze. Kati a person who has that mindset, lwaki omukkiriza okubbako emirembe? Because mindset ye yamanyi dogo, amanyi kusamira, amanyi jajja, amanyi kuwonga. Kati wacha omukkiriza okubbako emirembe nga mindset ye yeeyo ya kyalo. Amala n'emyaka nga tayingiddeeko Kampala asiiba Matugga. N'omukkiriza okubbako emirembe. Amala n'emyaka 10 nga tagenze tamanyi na Kampala. They even don't know what Kampala is. And you allow such a community steal your inner peace. So there are truths we have to know about anger. Anger is not about us. It is about people. Kubanga olusi, at times we have to know. Just like I told myself, I live in a community. These are people. talina na chamanyi, chamanyi. So I don't know, even I'm sorry to say, I'm not degrading people, but that is, no, you have to know, at times, do not allow small minds steal your inner peace. Do not allow popcorn minds steal your inner peace. Because bawulire nti muchala Benediction yaranye n'omukazi ematugga. It is why I'm telling you, there are certain times you have to know, you have to keep your dignity than provocation. You know, because when we get to know truths about anger, no, I'm telling you, it does not matter. No minute dagaloti anga toize mazima gali mu busungu jaddimira. Wati wali kakalenda kakujjako busungu nga toize kwefuga. You know, it is why as I'm finishing this video, as I'm winding it up, let me speak to someone. Do not let the sun get down when you're angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. People are very intentional at keeping you low, at keeping you in anger, and it's the reason you should be very intentional at guarding your heart. It is the reason you have to laugh at the confusion, laugh at the chaos. Because stand your bomb mazamani. Thank you very much for listening to me, and it's my prayer that someone has something to learn in this video about anger management. God bless you. Benedictions.